Welcome guys, I'm really proud to present you the first uQuest podcast and brought to you by yours truly Anis and David. As you know, me and David have been working on designing cryptocurrency for uQuest for some time now, and David is also the one who started the whole uQuest project, the CEO, and in this first episode I wanted to talk to him about how the project started. So David, where did the idea for uQuest come from, and how did you latch on to it?
So around 3 years ago, I had been working for the International Commission on Missing Persons, and in that process I was exposed to a lot of use of geolocation technology, whether that was just Google Earth or YouTube footage from the US government in order to find secondary mass graves. And prior to that I had worked quite a few odd jobs. My background isn't necessarily in any business per se acumen, but what was apparent to me was that most people really didn't enjoy their jobs, and I've been a gamer all my life. And at some point all of that coalesced together into an idea to somehow incorporate geolocation with gaming and freelancing so that people could have a better time working.
Yeah, that idea actually, when you talk about geolocation and gaming, we actually had quite a few successful games so far, right? That used both geolocation and gaming. I'm talking about stuff like Pokemon
Sure,
Go.
of course.
Do you think that uQuest is a better idea than that, and why?
Well, I have a great deal of respect for what Niantic did with Pokemon Go. The founder of Niantic actually used to work for Google Maps, and so they came to a similar kind of birth, if you will. And I think what they really tripped on was that people enjoy going outside of their home if there's some aspect of play to it, and that's what's really missing from a lot of today's nuanced jobs. And people, as they get older, become more concerned, as they should, with responsibility, and they don't necessarily have the same kind of drive to play that they used to as a child. And Niantic perfectly hit the right audience, a generation that grew up with Pokemon but was now able to interact with mobile game, was well paid enough to own their own mobile phones, and at the same time interested in something new when it came to geolocation or geofenced gaming. So I think that to answer your question, what uQuest has going takes a lot of inspiration from Pokemon Go. Not to say that one is better than the other. They're going to be very different. Maybe one day we can somehow work with Pokemon Go, bring some of Pokemon's intellectual property into uQuest as well.
That's actually an interesting possibility. Do you think that what do you think about the idea of young people not enjoying their jobs, working in the gig economy, and generally about the lack of motivation? Do you think that uQuest is going to be able to offer an alternative for young people to actually start liking work?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the key facets that we found when we kept on talking to different advisors and outside forces that may have had some influence on uQuest was, how do you balance between having a game and a freelancing application? And what we found was that a lot of people couldn't put the two together. They were completely separate from one another, and they didn't necessarily have a good fit to the audience of freelancers in their eyes. But what you don't need to be interested in to be an employer on a freelancing platform that offers jobs in the form of quests is to be interested in gaming. You don't need that. You can just be an employer. And likewise, if you want to go ahead and just do the job, do the quest, and have that be your experience, then that's your choice. And if you don't want to have anything to do with the game, then you can do that. That being said, I think that people, based on all the research that we've done, are a lot more interested in benefits that come, whether they're in-game benefits or real-life benefits, with any freelancing platform or job. And according to most of the big accounting firms, the Big Four, freelancers are more concerned with benefits than they are in cost reduction or increased pay, which is something that we had initially thought was the other way around, that, okay, well, what do you mean that, say, one of these larger freelancing applications for taxis charging 25%, that a freelancer would automatically jump to something that charges 15%.
Yeah,
but
that's a lot.
In reality, they care more about the benefits that are associated. And now you see a lot going on, especially in California, when it comes to the regulation for freelancers to indeed receive benefits if they're going to be employed by such a large company that has, frankly, the ability to provide them. And so that's something that we want to give people, is a sense that they are both progressing in the game and they're progressing in real life benefits down the line, including whether that is health insurance or some other kind of assistance for their livelihood.
So you're saying that basically they could live, and learn for a living just by using uQuest.
Absolutely.
And also have benefits, maybe in some countries, healthcare or stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I think that the best way to do that is to offer it through some kind of subscription for which people qualify for. If they want to take this to a full-time level, and then they can begin to access insurances that are actually affordable. Wholesale pricing for insurance, wholesale benefits, and then in addition to that, they can get their favorite skins from the games they play the most through questing, through actually going and completing a job. Now you can go and get that Garen skin that you wanted on League of Legends, or perhaps you really would like some kind of warrior weapon in Guild Wars. And so there's an aspect of getting both real and unreal benefits.
So the whole game would work on the concept of issuing quests. As I understood it, so quests can be issued both by normal persons and by companies as well, right?
Yeah.
Sponsored quests, regular quests. What's the difference? And can you give us an example of how would sponsored quests look, and how would regular user-issued quests look like?
Sure. So for regular users to issue a quest, that would be something more like, okay, well, I need my toilet fixed, or I need my lawn mowed, or I need my car washed, or could someone walk my dog? Most freelancing platforms actually try to fit into one of these categories because of lack of a critical mass. But that's something that we can get into on another talk. The thing that is different about sponsored quests, sponsored quest is more what, say, uQuest would sponsor, and what we want to do is actually have an impact on environmental issues when it comes to, say, a beach that has been dumped with oil, and that needs to be cleaned up. So there need to be volunteers, there need to be a lot of people to publicly engage in this, and our platform would be perfect for that, to actually go ahead and just pay for each individual to go out there and have a bit of a moment as a hero for the environment. It doesn't just have to be cleaning a beach, it could be planting trees, or it could be running soup kitchens, or it could be running a job training event. And so to be able to fund that from uQuest directly is a sponsored quest, and then on top of that we'll have larger quests allotted to, say, corporates, so corporate quests, in which case you're looking at a employer that needs to begin hiring, it could be support, and so they need to actually get people to answer calls from home remotely, and they could then begin to do that with uQuest, although that is sort of down the line on our roadmap, because we need to hit that critical mass that I was talking about earlier to be able to give that much service all at once to a corporate customer.
So you also mentioned earlier that uQuest is going to be quite different from other freelancing platforms, because it's going to have elements of gamification. So what did you have what ideas are you currently working on for that gamification? How are you going to make quests interesting for people?
So ultimately that's kind of the secret sauce of what we're doing. The key difference to understand between us and, say, a regular game is that our main environment is the one that you and I are sitting in right now. The room that we're in right now is essentially part of the ecosystem of the game that you play when you are playing uQuest. And you need to kind of remove yourself from an adult way of thinking when it comes to how we interact in this environment. Right now we're having a podcast, but we could just as well be pretending that we're Vikings and slamming cups on the table. That probably messed with the microphone here. I know it's not that high-tech of a setup, but point is that we'll have both games accessible directly on your mobile phone, which you can play from home, and even go out later and play games, an FPS game that is within augmented reality that you can play in the streets. But it's not just about those two games. Those are ways to sort of ease people into the understanding that you can have a digital identity that now comes a little bit further into real life. And there's a great deal to be said about the benefit of that, because when you look at certain platforms that you can rent an apartment for a couple nights from, if you are a person of color, you are 30% less likely to actually be able to rent or be able to rent out your own space, simply because many users are racist. And I think it's our job as founders of tech companies to actually facilitate the breakdown of that kind of mentality and get people to confront their misconceptions. And that's not going to happen unless we bring digital identity on an anonymous level to the forefront, so that you can be, we were talking about integrating Pokemon Go, you could be Pikachu, and I'm just imagining you like saying that the Pikachu.
Yeah, you're not gonna say it. Don't worry about it.
But you could be one of these characters rather than honest Torlakovic, and you would know that you're a white Bosnian, right? You wouldn't even know if you're a man. So that in itself helps to break down the barrier, and nonetheless we would still have proper KYC AML to identify and clear customers, and a very rigorous banning system for anybody who turns out to be a malicious user. To that end, we'll still also have a very good review system in place that's more or less mandatory for people to use and highly incentivized, so that you know that you are getting someone who has some experience in what they're doing or is generally acceptable as a quest seeker.
Wow, I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds like you're looking at all of the aspects which are to be improved in a modern society. You're looking at social responsibility, you're looking at equality, right? You're looking also at benefits. You're looking at a lot of stuff, and those are all things that are discussed either today as issues. And having uQuest as a platform that could address all these issues at the same time really, really is a new idea, and that's what kind of got me into the project at first. And the potential is really, really huge, and I hope the other people are gonna be able to see it. So what I wanted to ask you, Ness, is what were the first team members that you actually recruited that are still present?
So the first and currently present team members are Lamia and Hera.
So we can start just about them. So tell me about Lamia and Hera. Hopefully we have them on the podcast later on as well.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be great. So Hera is a design professional, and Lamia is more or less a marketing and branding expert who was formerly a public speaking anchor on TV. And we met at a competition actually for a grant regarding freedom of expression. And on that grant, they and one other team member had come up with the idea to come up and show a lot of black post-it notes across the entire city, and to run a campaign named Slobodu izražavanja se uči, which I think translates to freedom of expression is learned.
Yes, that's true.
And when you turn it into an acronym, it actually means SISU. So, I don't know whether to give the plural of that. I think it's Sisa, but in any case it means boob. So if anyone had a problem with that that name, then they needed to learn a thing or two about freedom of expression, I guess. And having these black post-it notes was a way of saying that you're only really given the ability to express yourself and write on these notes if you have the right tool. And that tool in that case was a whiteout pen.
Quite rare.
Yeah, hard to come by unless you're looking for it. And no, we connected then, and then I realized in the process of, earlier you mentioned, or you asked the question, how did we get to this? And part of that story is actually that I had been looking at purchasing a middle level developed fitness application, and I realized that Bosnia and Herzegovina was a really great place to develop technology, and that there were people here who had the capability and the open-mindedness to think outside the box, partially because of meeting people like Lamia and Hera, partially because I just saw that the pricing was right here as well, and at the time it wasn't like I could afford all that much. So yeah, I tried to purchase that mobile fitness app, and met up with Lamia and Hera at one point and asked them to join in creating the sense of uQuest. At first it was actually called Request.
Request.
and later on we figured that be a little bit better with uQuest. It's more of a command thought process and branding. So yeah, to say more about Hera is to say that he is an excellent minimalist when it comes to his designs, and he really cuts out the BS when it comes to all of the competing visuals that people can think of to represent a concept. And I think Lamia balances him out to a great degree and is able to be the communicator in most senses and the organizer. And so she's helped a lot, both in terms of developing our brand and in developing our business plan from the get-go, which was almost 3 years ago. It was around 2 years and 11 months, I think, now.
So Hera actually designed this logo, right?
Yes, he did. We've got a color there that's a terrain called radiation blue, and is generally not too widely used.
Yeah, it kind of sticks out.
Yeah, and the concept behind it is really just to get across that we're about a good time and having a sense of play in our work. And I do my best to at least try to emphasize that within the team. Maybe you can attest to that or not, I'm not sure, but that really if we're ever working together, that it's not just about getting the objective done, but actually having a good time in the process, because if we cannot actually do that ourselves as a team, then we can never bring that out into the world through the application.
Also, I wanted to talk to you about where are we currently at? Where is uQuest at? What do you expect in next couple of months?
Okay, so we are on our third iteration of the application. We had a first iteration, which was a glass cannon, and really didn't cut it. We had a second iteration, which focused more on the questing aspect. Now our third iteration is going to focus a lot more on the gaming. The reason being that we want to be completely ready to offer the questing apparatus to our users, and that our users won't become frustrated when they want to order some kind of service, some kind of quest, to put it up online, and no one's there to service them. No one's there to go out and fulfill that quest. So now we're starting off with what is more or less a very heavy container, a vessel of an application with all the right architecture that we can then scale up down the line into having other aspects of uQuest. But to begin with, only the game that you can play from your home or on the train or wherever you are is going to be available, and that will be a PvP RTS strategy game. So that's a little redundant there, isn't it? But
no, it's not.
Real-time strategy game.
I'm guessing it will use geolocation right from the get-go.
Yes, so you'll be able to pick up your rewards by going to a certain location in geolocation terms. So you'll pick it up by going to Pokemon Go uses monuments. We will have a little bit of a different setup for where that will be, but that will be shown at launch. Hopefully, we're looking at the next month or so to be able to launch.
And one also interesting thing that I wanted to talk to you about, how did other people, they don't necessarily have to be team members, but even outsiders, how do they react to the idea of uQuest? You probably had some time to talk to a lot of them and to hear their opinion, to hear their input, and I was interested in what were those reactions? Were they kind of similar to my reaction when you first told me about the project and I was blown away, or were they a bit more mellow and saying it's not gonna work or something like that? what did you come across
team
there?
members' reactions?
Team members, outsiders, generally people, how do they react? You can maybe share with us some interesting reactions.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, two of the oldest people that I've presented to, who are outside of the organization, understood it best. And I won't mention who they are necessarily, but it was interesting to me that it was actually the oldest generations that were able to grasp the fullness of the concept in one fell sweep. And otherwise, I would say it was 50% confusion and needing a real big follow-up, and 50% like, okay, that's cool. And then some imaginary number for a very few number of people who didn't really get it the first time, or didn't like the idea, or thought it was too ambitious. There was very few of those. We did find that outside of the organization, there were forces, there were groups that really wanted us to focus on one or the other and forget either freelancing or forget gaming. And we greatly considered what they had to say, but at the end of the day, it defeats the point of introducing an element of fun into our daily lives, and to be able to cross that barrier. So you can't remove those aspects from one another. Otherwise, you would be left with something very, very different from uQuest. Although there are other ways which we can pivot in a business sense. So.
Well, that sounds like you've got a little bit of everything, and I'm guessing you also been able to reflect on everything you've heard and develop the idea further with other team members and stuff like that. So now I wanted to touch a bit on my topics. I wanted to talk about. I'm not gonna talk too much, right? Because it's still under secrecy about the cryptocurrencies and how are they gonna fit into uQuest. So I'm gonna let you do the talking here, and I'm gonna just add a bit on details or my input, just not to reveal too much, because I want everybody to be surprised by it. I want everybody to see that it's a revolutionary idea, and I want everybody to see how it will help uQuest, become unique. Already it's a unique idea, but I think with cryptocurrencies it's gonna be even better. So, what can you tell us about the crypto and uQuest?
So, I can tell the world right now that the main purpose of the uQuest cryptocurrency is to facilitate ownership of the funds which you accrue on uQuest in a real-time fashion. And when we incorporate a wallet onto the platform, that you indeed control your own funds. That is one of the main aspects, and that is done in a very secure fashion. But more generally, I would say that the main goal is to bring cryptocurrency closer to the average person. We want to launch a stablecoin, and we are going to also launch a speculative coin. And the purpose, of course, of the speculative coin is to assist in funding the development of the stablecoin and the development of uQuest. But the main benefit of having this project partnered up with uQuest is that the application in its own right will have a lot of users that are using the game for in-game purchases or using the game to go out on quests, and that is a very good reason to begin using cryptocurrency if it is not invasive to you, if it is easy to transfer back into fiat currency. And that's what we intend to do, is to enable that entry into cryptocurrency ownership without affecting your your net worth and causing it to be necessary to involve accredited investor profiles only, and for the stablecoin at least. So, not sure if that was a little bit too convoluted to understand, but
I mean, I can sum it up and just say that using cryptocurrencies, it's a modern way. People predict today that most startups are going to have a crypto component. Cryptocurrencies are growing still, right?
Yeah.
And people are using them because they bring benefits to all stakeholders.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I mean, the thing is that there's a lot going on in the background as far as the technology is concerned, and a lot of promises as far as speed have not been kept when it comes to some of the biggest blockchain projects out there.
Yeah, I believe every one of viewers who was a bit knowledgeable about crypto knows that there were claims about 10,000 or 12,000 transactions per second, while the actual numbers turn out to be around 50 or 60.
Yeah.
And we also had that cryptocurrency bubble in 2017, when all cryptocurrency spiked in value,
Right.
and then the bubble burst, and like in stock market, people lost confidence.
It was a little bit more publicized than the previous ones were, right? Because of just the massive market cap at that point. But if you had been involved in crypto long enough, then as a person, that these bubbles occur generally, and in the whole history of Bitcoin, there have been, I think, 3 or 4 major bubbles.
So you were actually involved in trading and mining as well, right? So who got you into that road? Who got you into that road? How did you manage to come across it? Did you meet someone, or did you just find it on the internet and say, okay, I have to be a part of it?
So I have to confess that I was one of the fairly unintelligent people that knew a little bit about crypto when it was still very, very affordable. Around 2013.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
And I didn't touch it, and it was a great regret. But then down the road, I started to hear more about it on YouTube, and I guess I got into it that way. And I had some experience trading stocks before that, which wasn't such a pleasurable experience, but it was a informative one. One of the main problems for any small-scale trader is that you had to pay a fee for every single trade that you made, and unless you're trading in excess of $1,500 each time, generally you would not make a percentage beyond your initial fee, at least if you're trading in the short term. And it was a long time until apps like Robinhood came along and started to offer margin trading, and cryptocurrency to me offered that earlier than Robinhood began to. So I really got into it that way and enjoyed that. And my favorite indicators are MACD and RSI, so relative strength index, kind of the thing that tell you when to buy in and if you should buy in.
So that's quite a bit. So you had experience with the stock market, you had experience in cryptocurrency trading, you had experience with geolocation, right?
Yeah.
And did you have previous business experience?
I had actually created a company in order to be a holding company for other manufacturing companies that I wanted to create, because I wanted to get into inventing my own products. And down the line, after both a prototype water cleaner and a stage of manufacturing, we were looking at doing some Bluetooth earpieces. I realized that for a small timer like myself, there wasn't much place with the fact that I had little experience and little dry powder funding to push past the barrier to entry on anything that involved the manufacturing process. So we'll just take a quick break for a second. And
Okay, we'll be back in 5 people.
we're back.
Yeah, we're back. So, our next topic. David, I want you to take us a bit through the business plan of uQuest. Where do you gonna see uQuest in its first year, its second year, its third year? We're talking about after the main launch, right?
Yeah.
So not the prototype, not the demo, not the beta, but the main deal.
Right. So to begin with, we want to get the beta out there in about a month's time, and after that, we're still seeking funds, and that will mean that our roadmap really starts to develop once we get those funds, right? But more or less within a year, we'll begin to build out the application full time, and that means that we will bring in the questing component to the application slowly, as well as the second game that we want to launch. So the first game is going to be a strategy game that you can play from anywhere, and the second game is going to be a first-person shooter that you can play with other people in the streets. And when we release that second game, we will also release the questing component to the application. That is the current understanding and plan in any case.
So you're basically saying that I'm gonna be able to go on the street and shoot other uQuest users.
Not necessarily with bullets per se, but you'd be able to attack them with spells that are related to climate change and pollution and denuclearization. So,
Why did you make the choice for those specific spells? They kind of sound intentional. That's why I'm asking.
Very much so. I mean, the whole theme of the game runs along sort of anything goes, sci-fi or medieval or ancient. We really want to bring in as much IP as possible to engage and collaborate and bring users together on what they care about, what their favorite games are, whether that is Final Fantasy or Halo, or whether that is some kind of Pac-Man-esque casual game. So we want to get all of that together there, and that means a very sci-fi and post-apocalyptic setting where people are trying to survive. So that is our game theme.
Wow, I mean that's kind of deep.
So down the line, like two years from now, we want to be looking at incorporating other aspects like full benefit packages that will be available to questers, and additional advertisement mechanisms within the application that make advertisements less invasive, because right now your most commonly downloaded addition to any browser is going to be an ad blocker. People hate invasive ads for good reason. It's possible that at some point YouTube may even put some kind of advertisement on this video and interrupt right in the middle of the podcast.
Now that you mentioned advertisements, I just want to also provide my take on them. What I've noticed is that I kind of became immune to advertisements. Even if they are stuff that interest me, I'm so immune to them. I'm so saturated with these advertisements that I immediately, block them, close them, stuff like that. And no matter which algorithm, others come up for advertisement, it's really hard for them to get through. At least this is my personal situation. I don't know how everybody else feels. Or, for example, David, what do you think about ads? What's your personal view?
I'm also very used to them, and they kind of blend in with the white noise. I don't know if you've ever lived next to a subway or a train or an airport. You don't hear it anymore after a while. You don't hear the train passing by. You're completely used to it. Your brain filters it out.
Yeah, and that's what's happening to modern ads, and constantly see talk about changing the ad algorithm, trying to use target marketing, which I believe something is that Google is very good at. Very good. They're doing a very good job, huh? But
Yeah.
I still kind of believe that nobody's taking into consideration this aspect of our brain, just
Yeah.
blocking the ads, like being an ad blocker.
Right.
So even if they make you watch the ad for 30 seconds, I don't believe people are going to watch the ad for 30 seconds. More people are just going to look away or just going to put down their phone,
Right.
That's at least what I do.
So-
And why is uQuest, for example, different in that matter? Why can we make the best ad experience for both the user and for both the company that
So
is wanting to advertise something?
this is one part where I really hope or like to think that my background in neuroscience and behavior comes into play, because I really focused for some time working in a cognitive laboratory on source memory, working memory, to be able to look at the effects of memory on attention and genetic effects that may predispose certain people to have better memories. And generally, what I think is going to happen when you're looking at these advertisements, and why advertisers still put out, for the 9 millionth time, that big golden arch or golden arches, is because as you see them, you may not be consciously aware that you see them, but in fact your brain is subconsciously aware of seeing it and is becoming familiarized, and there's something called the familiarity effect. So you actually become more accustomed to that particular advertisement's brand, and you trust it more the more you are exposed to it. Even if you may not be consciously paying attention, the sheer volume of the advertisements that are coming your way are going to influence your interest in that product. And when you are approached with a non-name brand compared to the name brand that you've been exposed to, you are more likely to choose the name brand that you have been exposed to, even subconsciously. So with regard to what we want to do, we believe it's in the interest of people to not be interrupted in what they're doing and not feel frustration when they're given advertisements. But the best advertisement that you can possibly have is just to go and be somewhere that is an environment associated to a brand. So say if you went into a Starbucks on behalf of uQuest or behalf of one of the games that uQuest is on its platform, and you're playing that game and you end up in a Starbucks. Well, it's a lot more interesting to your brain and all-encompassing to your memory to have both the smells and the sight and the touch of the elements inside Starbucks. So, seeing the coffee there is one thing. Seeing the coffee on a screen with the little squiggles above it to denote that it's hot coffee is not as interactive for your brain as to see and smell the coffee, or to touch a hot cup, or to feel the heat coming off of the area in which the poor barista is slaving away all day.
So you're basically saying that you're gonna get to advertise and at the same time get people to feel like they're doing a quest in real life, because you're gonna issue quests, maybe meet another user in Starbucks in order for them to complete the quest or to do something else together.
It could be something like that, or it could just be that next to a Starbucks is where you go to pick up the reward that you've won from your latest game.
Yes, and you get this real environment, real location, unlike just in game when they tell you, okay, go to guild to pick up your reward.
Yeah.
But you have to go now to the place in real life, which is I never seen anybody do that before.
Well, Pokemon Go does that.
But yeah, they kind of have these stations which you can spin every couple of hours. I don't think it died.
It died. Ladies and gentlemen, our camera has died. We will be continuing without a camera for the foreseeable 5 minutes.
Yeah, please enjoy the image that I'm going to paint in Microsoft Office paints of me and David talking together on the screen. So I was talking about that uQuest is going to be able to provide a genuine experience to users when it comes to questing, right? And what is really interesting to me is that's the dimension which I didn't see before, because you can do quests on real locations, while in Pokemon Go, you can catch Pokemon in real locations. I think that I'm not blaming Pokemon Go; they're a great idea, but I think that maybe doing quests in real locations is a bit more immersive. Don't you think so? Or
yeah, I do, but
I mean, this is just a matter of opinion. Don't let anybody else get me wrong.
No, I don't think that they're mutually exclusive, right?
They're not mutual, yeah.
We can offer quests that are more or less workable from your bathroom, if you wanted to. Yeah. if you wanted to multitask, I mean, the point being is that you could use the platform for remote work as much as you could for work in person, and there's no need to disqualify one from the other, except that a platform in question willing to offer both in-person and remote services also seeks to maintain a critical mass of users in a certain area. And that is really the disqualifying factor for a lot of these startups to begin with, is that they never reach that critical mass. In fact, this is something that TaskRabbit originally struggled with, and they ended up being acquired by IKEA rather than continuing on their own path, and they had to narrow down their offered services for a while to be exclusively related to work, whether it's being a handyman or a cleaner or something of that like. So I guess that's how I feel about it. I don't think that we need to cut one out for the other. We can do both.
Well, I mean, that's definitely you're offering the users with, you can work from home, you can work outside, right? You can work on gamified quests, you can work on regular quests, right?
Right.
You can basically choose, as a user, you can choose what you want.
Absolutely.
Freedom of choice, and you intend to incorporate into all that, like equality, social responsibility, online identities, cryptocurrencies, and I mean that's quite ambitious. What do you think is gonna happen in 5 years? Where do you see uQuest? I know it's a hard question, but I'm guessing you also did some numbers so far.
We did. I mean, I don't know how reasonable it is to quote any kind of expected net profit at that point, but what I can say is that we hope in about 5 years' time to be making other freelancing platforms very, very nervous, and to really be gaining ground with the IP that begin to work with us. So that's two things that I can say I very much expect in 5 years and hope to achieve.
Well, in economics we talked about added value, and user, especially what's important is user or customer's perception of that value. If you're able to offer a product to somebody that has more value, even though maybe the price is same to the user than the other, you're gonna win here. So in this regard, me as an economist, I see that uQuest is able to offer users additional value. So we're gonna offer them freedom to choose, right? We're also gonna offer them many different options to choose from, and in essence, you have these components which we talked about all this time, like cryptocurrency, like sponsored quests, like real-time location, like, you know, if you want, you can just use the platform to play a game, or you can get serious and start earning money and even have benefits, right? So in that sense, so those are all the small things that gonna provide additional value, and I think they are important. So I'm glad that we have that. And when I wanted to also ask you, did you think of anything else for the future? Are there gonna be any additional benefits to the users except those that I mentioned right now?
The benefits we talked about today are the main ones we need to focus on, and there's a lot to be worked on there alone.
Yes, there's a lot to them.
To get all of that across the board, whether it's skins that users want for their avatars in uQuest's game or beyond uQuest's game, that we want to work together with other platforms to be able to offer them, or whether it is the out of game or real life benefits. Those are all things that take an immense amount of planning and execution to accomplish. And of course, once those are done, then we'll always want to be creative in how we impact people's lives and make work more enjoyable. I think that's the main mission here, is to make people feel more meaning in their life and have a sense of joy when they're working. So to get to that point, we can take a lot of different roads, and we'll just have to take care of the ones that we've set up so far, I suppose. So.
I also wanted to talk to you about uQuest launch. Where do you plan to launch it first? Where do you plan to launch it next? You know, is there a specified location, or is it going immediately worldwide?
Well, our beta will be a little bit all over the place, but hopefully having a large focus on users in New York City and New York State. New York has an immense student population, and the general demographic that we're looking at resides there, and so that's what we are expecting to take advantage of in New York, is that there is a greater number of people that we can really or that can really identify with us, rather.
Do you plan on going into other states and maybe Europe?
Absolutely. It's just we'll be taking it one major city at a time, I believe, or perhaps a few cities at a time, as long as we have the marketing budget to effectively scale the critical mass in each location. That's really the big question, because we don't want to offer subpar services in the process of rolling out the product.
Yeah, that's true. Considering marketing, I just wanted to, it's a hot topic right now.
Sure.
You probably heard of the game Among Us, and
Yeah.
you'll be you're very interested to hear that it was launched in 2018.
Really?
And it was just recently that it caught on,
Yeah.
And it was interesting for me. I also played the game. I love it, but it was interesting to me. Why didn't it caught on sooner if it was such a good?
No,
game?
I'm curious.
It probably has to do everything with marketing. They currently are. They were marketing in another they did marketing in another game, and they also some YouTubers started to play it recently. And that's why it caught on so widely. So considering marketing, there's this importance that you have of doing good marketing, doing targeted marketing, and also accessing to influencer. Is that something that you plan to do? I mean, it's maybe still early for me to ask that, but I'm guessing you probably had some thoughts about it.
To be honest, the influencer path is not one which I'm super convinced of, because there was a study done, I believe, by Kellogg, where they outright showed that the values that were previously believed to be derived from influencer marketing were actually quite exaggerated, and influencers don't really have as much of a draw on their followers' purchasing activity as someone else or some other marketing technique would have. So I'm not sure that we'll take that road too much. If we did, I think it would be with people that can contribute some kind of knowledge to either the uQuest sponsored quests or the ability for us to roll out one part of our product or another. They can also be involved and speak to the advantages of using the uQuest platform to do work or to have fun playing the games.
Yeah, so basically we're going to have a precise marketing plan, and you already know which channels are we going to use.
Yeah, we're looking a lot at Instagram and Reddit, but what we really want to be able to accomplish is accessing our demographic, and those are the two main places that they reside right now in the US. So, otherwise, a lot of the marketing we intend to do is going to be guerrilla marketing. Once we actually roll out the quests on the application, we should be able to create a kind of sponsored quest that will increase awareness in your local vicinity of where you may be whenever someone else is playing uQuest. You may see that they are in fact playing uQuest, or that is one way in which you may become aware. Or we want to take a fairly low cost approach when it comes to initial advertising, because after all, we've been bootstrapping for almost 3 years and it's not in our current capabilities necessarily to spend as much money as is humanly possible on all of these expensive advertising methods, but we do have a network, and we believe that we can leverage that network for more creative marketing methods.
We also touched about previously on the topic of how uQuest is going to be socially responsible, how it can help the environment, how it can help move the society, right? So what do you think whether governments are going to support the project? I mean, once we hit that critical mass, because there's a lot of good stuff that we talk about solving real world issues such as equality and So,
yeah, I mean, you've got a UNHCR cup right there. I think the thing that we can agree on with governments is getting people employed, and additionally, when it comes to foreign aid, this is a platform that could potentially find itself in the midst of a refugee camp, because there are many refugees with perfectly capable professions under their belt, and they are simply not able to use their talent within the scheme of a disorganized camp, and it might be that these people could set up more services internal to the area that they're struggling in right now, and be able to organize those services through an application like uQuest. So I think that certain non-governmental organizations may be interested in leveraging the power of the application. And as I said, governments would like as many people to be employed ultimately, for their own benefit as well. That's what I believe we can really cooperate on with governments. But of course, to get to that point, we're going to need a substantial number of users.
Yeah, I told you that it's probably going to happen once critical mass hit. So we're coming close to an end, and I would like in the end of this podcast, I would just like to highlight to us the values which uQuest are gonna promote. So just maybe list 3 or 4 main things which you think uQuest is gonna offer to users and it's gonna offer to societies, it's gonna offer to the world, and maybe we can draw from that what is its purpose and how it's gonna play out in the future.
Sure. We actually have some company values. I don't know if it would be appropriate to mention them. I can, I suppose. Those include honesty and borderlessness, and that's partially because of the background of the company. Right now, we have a lot of people that are working from Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have one Romanian on the team and one Canadian who's living in the UK. And I myself am not from Bosnia, although I like to think that I'm becoming somewhat more global by being here. So we really believe that people should be able to access a joyful living wherever they are, and to be able to do so with an element of truth as far as the reviews are concerned, as far as their sense of trust in the platform is concerned. I think it's horrible that so many people who are just trying to make a living by being self-employed, freelancing and being creative, or doing what they love, or just trying to make ends meet, have to give up so much in order to find clients through existing platforms. And I really hope that uQuest can solve that. And I think so that comes into it as well, is that we are a very giving platform, and we do wish to make an impact on what people feel about their daily lives, how they feel about their daily lives.
So that's it, David. Thank you very much. This has
Thank
been
you.
the first podcast, and we use it to talk a bit more about uQuest. We're of course going to touch on other
A
topics.
bit of natural propaganda as well, I suppose. But
you can't avoid that.
No. But thanks for facilitating this, and I'm happy that the sign behind us didn't fall down in the process of this.
Give it time. We have many team members to do podcasts with as well, so maybe some of them are gonna get lucky enough. So, folks, bye, everything best, and see you in the next episode.
All right, cheers, guys. Bye.